Okay, I think we're live. Yes, we are. Wonderful. Hi, I'm JJ Asgar, and I am start over. Hi, I'm JJ. I'm a developer advocate for the IBM Cloud, and I'm here with two friends today. You want to say hi?
Sure. It's been a couple weeks. I missed this. This is like my good kickoff to the weekend. My name's Jason Novies. I'm a developer advocate at Red Hat. And Cedric?
And hey, I'm Cedric. I'm a OpenShift developer advocate intern for the summer. Thanks.
Yeah. Is this where I ask you for some coffee because you're an intern? Is that?
Yeah, I'll be right back. Be right back.
So let me tell you, our HR department does not have a terribly great sense of humor because when they moved it to, when they moved it to virtual, there was this virtual chat room, and I kind of passed a comment like, do we have any kind of virtual substitute for having them get me coffee? And my sense of humor just did not really translate to HR so well. So lesson learned, don't joke around with HR.
Yep. That's a good corporate lesson. It's a very
Cedric, you might as well take that as a lesson. They are not typically a people who are like, yeah, let's joke about abusing rights and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay, so as Jay said, we haven't been around for a couple weeks. With everything going on in the world, it makes perfect sense. But we're trying to get back on the horse here, because we got some really awesome feedback from our community saying that people are actually learning things from these streams, and we kind of want to continue down this path. And we've had a couple conversations about what we were going to do over this week. But it sounds like we actually have a real plan, and this is the first I've heard of it. So, Cedric, do you have your ideas here?
I'll drive it inside the context, and then I'll let you talk more about what it is, Cedric. So, more of Okay, so Red Hat has a product called Open Data Hub that is related to AI/ML, and that is about the most intelligent thing I could say about it right now. I've looked into a little bit more, haven't touched it a ton. But we are seeing more requests for content around it in terms of Katacoda scenarios, things like that. I reached out to them and I was like, hey, you guys have some demos I've heard about. What of it can we start to automate and make available and things like that? And one of the first plans was, okay, they have this fraud detection demo. And there's a video on it, and I watched it, kind of walk through it, and they're like, they've done it the past 2 Red Hat summits. So from our perspective, that makes it a pretty big deal if it actually made it into Summit. But the setup for it was a bear, and they would love to have it be push button in our kind of workshop system. So I don't know that we've ever really showed it on this stream, but we have this internal provisioning system that builds up our workshops and then kind of guides you through things. So they would love to be able to do this setup without having to take, hours of setup and all this manual work. So I was like, cool, this should be an interesting project for our intern. It'll give you some experience into a whole bunch of products, into installing stuff on OpenShift and so on. They have a repo. I'm going to pull it up in a second, and it's got some instructions. And this was kind of my first intern lesson to him was, okay, just because you see instructions in the README does not mean, see, Cedric, JJ already saw it. You can see in his face. He's like, yeah, rookie shit right there. Just because you see instructions does not mean they necessarily work. I was like, so first and foremost, don't feel bad if you start running through this and you run into problems, because I gave it an 80% chance, and that was probably on the high end, especially given the way they talked about this demo and getting it running and things like that. So he's been poking around with it for a bit, running into a few gotchas here and there. And before we reach out to them, I was like, you know what? I was like, JJ's always pushing for more, let's just try it live stuff on stream and kind of poke around with it and see what happens. So I figure we'll start there. I have the GitLab repository up. I have a cluster ready for us, and just kind of walk through it and see what happens. And then if by some miracle we get through this and this all made sense, our provisioning system uses Ansible to set all of this up. So we can maybe take a peek at that, or maybe follow up next week with it, because it sounded like both Brian and JJ were excited about, Brian, who abandoned us today. We're excited about working with some Ansible. I think between the three of us, actually 4, including Cedric, I don't know that anybody's necessarily an expert, which probably makes it particularly fun to do on stream. Cedric, anything to add? I meant to give it over to you sooner, and then I just kept talking.
No, it's good. I'm happy you provided all that information about the background of it, because, and I'm sorry if I start crying when I talk about this. I just, the PTSD is really getting to me. Because I tried probably 15 different clusters of OpenShift, 4, 4.1, 4.4, everything. I tried different versions of Rook, and I was so frustrated. And I even reached out to people on the actual Open Data Hub team, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm an intern, please help me. And so it's been a fun thing to mess around with, but I'm happy we can really get to this and learn a bunch of components. Kafka, Ceph, Rook. It's going to be a good time.
Let's hope. Or we all come away with PTSD and start drinking pretty heavily.
Start crying together.
There you go.
But this is, your first. I joke about the PTSD and stuff, but I hope, if nothing else, JJ's reaction kind of confirmed what I've been telling you of, this kind of thing absolutely happens. We joke that Stack Overflow's down, which is going to make this even harder, because it's definitely one of those situations of like, I don't know what this is doing. Let's see what happens. So, okay.
My first question.
Yes.
My first question about this. So is there a module for Ansible to talk to OpenShift?
There is.
There is.
Yes, and I can't remember for the life of me how I installed it, because I've hit problems on this before. But actually, I can show you an example.
Oh, here it is, called OC_module, it seems.
Maybe. So here, let me show you
I found that link. I put it in the chat.
Is this it? I feel like
and there's a massive deprecated warning on it. Shit.
Yeah, I think it's now the K8S module. So if you look at, let me make this a little.
There's an OpenShift raw. Oh, which goes to K8S. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, cool.
So there is, and installing it, what we're getting wonky on is I feel like to install it, I had to install the OpenShift Python client. And then I ran into issues trying to install that into a virtual environment. So like any true engineer, instead of fixing it, I just installed it at the systems level and said, screw it, and went on with my life. So there's probably a better way of doing this with actual VNVs, but yes, so there are K8s modules or Kubernetes that whenever I actually see it here, I'll say K8s. And there's actually a lot you can do with them. This is what our provisioning system uses with a variety of things. Like sometimes we straight up shell out and say, okay, I want you to just run this OC command, where OC is the OpenShift client. I say shell out. I don't necessarily know if that's the term for Ansible, but you know what I'm getting.
Close enough. Yeah, enough.
Exactly. Conceptually, it's there. But then there are those times where it's got that declarative Kubernetes look to it, where I say, I want to create a namespace, or I should say, I want to create a resource. Here's the name. Here's its identification. So in this case, it's a namespace or a deployment or so on and so forth. And then this is built-in Ansible concepts because, again, it's more declarative. So I just want it to be present. And then this is where all of the nice idempotency of Ansible comes in, where when it's going to go through, it's going to run that and say, does this namespace exist? Cool. I'm not going to do anything. And then it's going to flag it out. And then again, down here, we have another K8s call here. It's going to have a definition for an operator group. I should have mentioned earlier, this is installing or enabling the service broker in OpenShift. So for Odo, which we did a couple weeks ago, probably longer at this point because time kind of has no meaning. It requires a service broker. So when I found myself doing a lot of Odo work, I was like, hey, I enabled it once and I don't want to enable it again. We're going to write a script for it, or a playbook like good nerds do. Okay, so subscription, and then, it intermixes with it. So the big thing that you end up getting out of these is this K8s module, and then the ability to define things. Again, though, you'll see, depending on who you're looking at and how they did it, there's times where I've seen people define the manifest externally and then just have a command call to apply the manifest. And then the annoying part is when people mix and match in between them, kind of like I did here, because then you're like, oh shit, I got to look someplace else for this. This is particularly wonky because it's a patch command, but I suppose at least that means the patched piece is in here to say, okay, we're flipping the management.
Yeah.
So yes, when we get to that point, I can double check how I have it installed here. But if I do just a pip freeze, we can see at my system level, I have the OpenShift module installed. And I think that was the only thing I needed. Scroll up, I do have Kubernetes, and that might have been a dependency from the OpenShift one.
Okay.
I was about to say the versions are the same, but they are not, because Kubernetes is 11 and OpenShift is 0.11. So yay.
That's helpful.
Yeah, and that also gives me a whole ton of confidence. 0. Whatever as my version.
Exactly. Jeez.
I know. So let's try to keep. I don't know if this is going to work side by side, but we'll kind of paste.
It should be fine. Yeah, side by side should be fine.
So this is going to get interesting because out the gate, I don't think this command actually works.
That's actually a busted link.
This is an actual rendered link. But for shits and giggles, we're going to actually run this.
Cedric, put that PR in. Fix that.
Yes.
I'm on it.
Off to a hell of a start. So Cedric, in case this part isn't obvious, the markup for GitLab, this is how you mark up a URL. It's actually redundant because let me see if I get this straight. One of these two is the link, and one of these two is supposed to be the visual representation of it. So
the link is the one in the circles.
The circle.
The square. Yeah, the square is the visual representation.
So this should say something like cv git, and then we'll do it this way. Git repo. And then when this renders, it'll be a sentence that says, see the Git repo, and the Git repo will be a link, which is great when you're reading it. It's spectacularly bad when it's in a pre-formatted code where it doesn't do any kind of translation, and pre-formatted by JJ sanity check me in this one, but I'm going to say if you put anything in pre like this, the intention is copy and paste, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
There is a religious war though about putting $signs or octothorpes or pound signs. It's called an octothorpe.
She didn't say hashtag.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm glaring at Cedric because I don't know what he would call it, but I'm going to assume it's a young guy thing to say hashtag.
Yes.
I'm in the camp of not putting the $signs in there because I like to if it's a command I need to copy and paste and run, I don't want to have to paste that in and then go all the way to the beginning of my command and delete that thing. It drives me bonkers.
Absolutely. Right? 100% agree. So, so actually this is what I like having Cedric on here because it gives me this fun, kind of age thing, especially with me and JJ, because we both sound way older than we are in terms of our experience. But so typically, all right, my prompt notwithstanding, your older school Unix and probably even Linux prompts was just a octothorpe or a $, depending on who you are. The convention, it used to be, that's the distinction between root and user, right? Would be this kind of.
That was the default way, as the $sign was a user, and then the pound or octothorpe or whatever you want to call it is the you are actually as root. It actually came back from Unix, I believe.
I think that's super old school. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was just the way you could do, like at one time before Bash actually had like root at DeLorean with the working directory. It would just be as Jay was saying a $sign or an octothorpe, and you use PWD all the fucking time.
And then we got into things like Bash, where you can customize. I use Z shell here, but where you can customize it, and even the default on Fedora, which is again technically has lineage back to Unix, but these types of older school conventions have been replaced by the newer, more useful-ish ones. So the default root prompt on this Fedora box is user at hostname, and then the pwd, and then or current directory, and then the octothorpe because I'm logged in as root right now. And old school, it would have just been that. And then if I was a user, it just would have been $. And then now we have, again, all this cool, like, you can figure the hell out of this thing. That's not what I want. PWD? No, oh, geez.
P1,
prompt.
PS1.
PS1, thank you. Thank you. You knew where I was going with this.
That's where you keep me around, Jay. That's why you keep me
That's
around.
right. I like that you know that, though. Like, that's some, like, not obtuse, but, like, definitely not your entry-level thing to be like, unless you got into ricing and the real nerding out of your prompts. But this is how it actually renders it. Anyway, all of this boils down to, God, we are back to just prime streaming, JJ. We are a half an hour
That's right.
So
15 minutes. Just 15 minutes.
Oh, that's right. We started late. That's good. That's good. So the whole reason he mentions the octothorpe, and I'm seeing little chatter in chat about this too, is that some people will prefix commands in CLI based in pre-formatted text like this with that, which is annoying because boom, triple click, I get the line, and then as JJ was saying, I paste it in. I'm like, oh shit, it's not going to do anything. Because if I have a command and then I put octothorpe in front of it, it treats it as a comment and doesn't do anything. So if I
so this is a great place to ask this. So hold on, bring that terminal back. This is a nice little hacker move. Type history for me. Okay, we see the history on line 30, the octothorpe one with ls, and then ls, right?
Yep.
Now do a space ls.
And then hit enter.
Yep.
Oh, it doesn't add it, right?
Now write history. We should hit see history twice. Yeah.
Oh, that's not what I expected.
Oh, wait. Oh, shit. No, it didn't. It's supposed to do that. It's supposed a space is supposed to not put it into the history.
Not agreed, because I only recently found this out like about a month ago. And then there's ways to dork with it.
What?
Is this
okay, hang on.
I know. Right?
Yeah, I swear. You know what? Keep going, Jay. I'm gonna figure this thing out because
I'm gonna help you figure it out. So we're gonna go to events Linux cheat sheet. I'm pretty sure I saw it in here. If not, there was a Dev Nation course where he was talking about Linux, hacking Linux commands, I think he called it, and it was messing with this kind of stuff. And that's the first place I saw it. Apparently it wasn't in that.
Oh, so there's a hist control. Echo out $hist control, all capital. Yeah, there it is. You set it to ignore the space. So if you take that off, if you want to echo or just do hist control equals two ticks or whatever. Yep. Oh, and I guess you'd need the actual command afterwards because you're putting in there, right? So export.
Export.
Yeah, export. Yeah. Okay.
It just made me think. I'm like, what do I have in my history that I may not necessarily want to show? But there's really nothing. Like, stupid shit is me setting my wallpaper. Yep. Okay, so last command is ll, and then we're going to do a space ls, and then history.
There you go. Yeah, there it is.
And there's quite a few neat things you can do with that hist control. I've never manually edit that. I'm almost positive if I go into my Z shell, I won't work with those.
I think just by default, yeah. It's got to be in there. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, okay.
Export hist control. Yeah.
I lied. I did apparently change that to have that functionality. I don't know why though, because I kind of would think I would want that ignore space thing to be possible, but I'm not a huge history person. I'm like a search person, but like I'll control R to like search your previous ones. But yeah, I apparently watched that thing and decided to keep the ignore space in there for whatever reason, even though it is a cool little neat piece of trivia. Where's my other, go back to here for a second. One thing I do like doing though is if you do have the hashtag one, I should be able to just run that and it's just going to execute the last, I don't know, I would have thought it would just execute the last argument, but that's probably, it's probably not an argument. It's a command. Okay.
Do like ls pipe it to more or something. And then if you do bang dollar.
Isn't that going to do the more? And
should just do more.
Oh, yeah. Going to fill it in. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I use that a fair amount. I went through this whole like 1.5 year period where I tried using Fish Shell, and they removed the bang dollar there, and
What?
they had a rationale. Yeah, they had a rationale, and I hated the rationale. Fish Shell. Nope. Was it 4? It was the equivalent of these two in Fish. And then their rationale was they want you to use the up arrows, I think.
What? What kind of crap is that?
I know. I liked it. It had some neat things to it.
I've never used Fish. Like I've just never gotten down that path. I've went from TCSH to Bash for almost 10 years. Then I went to Z Shell, like without anything. Then back to Bash. Now I've gone to Z Shell and Oh My ZSH. And so far it seems to be doing what I want. So I'm not fucking with it anymore.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm at Oh My, and then I have my own. No, what's my theme called? Yeah, so and I have my own theme that I just created for it with like my arrows and junk like that. So I just have to keep my work live for it. And it works, and it's different enough where people usually notice it during presentations and stuff like that, and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" Okay, so we've cloned a repository in 20 minutes here. Awesome job! We're off to a great start. Sir Cedric's super thrilled to watch us do all of this. So first step, clone the operators. So installing Open Data Hub. We've talked about operators in this channel before. Right now we are simply going to be deploying it by deploying its operator. So OC create.
Is this your code ready containers instance that we're doing this on, or is this an actual OpenShift cluster?
This is an actual OpenShift cluster.
Okay.
I don't remember how to view the URL, but
it's fine. I was genuinely curious. Yeah, I was genuinely curious. That's all.
And then one of the reasons I went with that is the UI, the web UI for CRC just kind of sucks. So in case we wanted to poke around in here, in hindsight,
which we shouldn't though, right? Like we're just running the code here. We're not actually needed to do any real administration. We just want to make Cedric like actually see this work, right?
Exactly. So deploying the custom resource definition, we all know from previous talks that's going to be our API into talking to the operator. That's done at the cluster level, so the fact that I wasn't on a project shouldn't be a problem there. So copy pasta and deploying another.
What?
Selden deployment.
See, it's
typo number
YAML.
2. They called it JSON instead of YAML. Hey, Cedric,
should I be making this PR?
Seriously, this is.
You're going through everything I had to go through. It's hard. It's tough work.
Yeah, that's spectacularly bad. Do you want to just keep notes of this? I don't want to distract the. We now have literally in 4 commands. 2 different bugs to file. I guess I could just do issues.
I mean, just fork it, right? And just start making the edits to the fork.
Just start making the edits. They probably would like that. I've never used GitLab. Let's see here. Clone.
Oh, you got to log in first.
Shit, I don't even know that I have one for GitLab. Let me see.
And do you happen to know why Open Data Hub is using GitLab?
No, I've spoken to a guy on their team, and I don't believe he had a big answer for me. I think
I do. I know some philosophical reasons that people like GitLab, and there's actually one huge technical reason why you would. Philosophically, GitHub is now owned by Microsoft, and right now there's no guarantee that Microsoft, in the ways of Microsoft, have been in the past. They're proving to be better now, but in the past they have shut things down without telling anybody or putting a paywall up in front and forcing you to pay.
And telemetry, don't forget that.
Yeah, exactly. But with GitLab is completely its own company. It's fully open core and open source that you can run on your own hardware if you want, and you get the whole thing. If you pay you get a couple other stuff. But the coolest thing about GitLab specifically is their GitLab runners inside of it. you can do some really, really amazing CI/CD with their GitLab runners that attaches to your actual repositories and all. And if you imagine GitHub Actions, it's very obvious GitHub Actions has been influenced about what GitLab runners can do. Not that I'm very passionate about this or anything.
That's super interesting. Wow, I did not know that. I'll have to look more into it.
You should have told me. I would have put the little privacy screen up. My bad.
No, honestly, I intentionally thought about what I have shown in there, and I don't care.
Okay.
Anish, actually my former intern, works on the Open Data Hub team. And it just dawned on me, like, if he's floating around and bored right now, this could be fun to invite him into the stream to kind of joke around with this stuff. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner. Yeah, so let's do that real quick. I'm going to clone. Oh, I should probably fork it first.
Yeah, just hit fork. Yep.
Into me.
Are you forking yourself? Heyo. No, that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. It really wasn't. Just in case you would decide to put the URL in there, I put the private screen up.
Appreciate it.
Not that I don't trust, public streamers or anything, but I don't trust people watching streams.
And let me copy and paste this.
Nice. Thanks for the help about. This is cute. Thank you.
What's that?
Oh, someone
in there. I'm very trustworthy. Still rocking Bash. I'm very untrustworthy. A lot we can do with that one.
Yep.
So you can take top secret off for now.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So he's gonna stay in chat. So this should be kind of fun, especially because that means I get to talk shit to him, and he has a solid way of responding to me. So we'll teach him. Okay. My
excellent
tutorial. Yes, very nice, very nice. Okay, so let's do. I probably should. Oh wait, did I even fork the right repo?
You could have just added another remote.
I could have. I know I could have added a remote, and I was starting to say, I know I could do this, but this is going to be look. It was also stupid because that wasn't the right repo anyway.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's great.
Also, yeah, I don't need this tonight. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. This is the repo I need to clone for this because this is where the instructions are. And yes, I 100% know I should have added another remote. Sloppy, but whatever. All right, so fraud. So JJ, you're gonna yell at me if I do this at master, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So all right, so let's talk about this real quick. We are not going to get shit done today. I have 2 fixes to do to the README, technically unrelated fixes. So would you consider that 2 commits, 2 push it to, and 2 PRs, or do we take a shit ton of notes and send them all at once?
So my opinion in this state, because our ultimate goal is to get this deployed. So we are actually doing, in essence, QA, right? We are walking through the process. For me, that would be, we create a branch, we make any changes we need to in the branch that we're doing, and then we ship that because it is the one time we sat down to do the work.
Okay.
Right? Because otherwise, then you just flood people with PRs, and that's just, nobody likes that, right?
Nobody likes that. Very, very fair. Okay.
This is great because from like an intern perspective, like I was struggling with what, because I was taking notes on like everything that I had to do differently in order to get it running, or at least to the point where I was. Yep. And I wasn't sure, individual PRs, but no, you saying that, JJ, is really, really good to hear.
And also, for the love of God, turn that into 3 ticks and put bash on there. That I'm literally like, my brain is burning right now. That is driving me crazy.
That's the syntax?
Yes, and then the next one should be just 3 ticks also.
Is that for all right, now here's another interesting question though. Do we want to do this now, or does that become noise on the actual content updates for the patch?
For the open source communities that I interact with, it is absolutely fine to do this type of formatting change with the actual thing, because as long as you're consistent, right? That's the most important part, is that you're consistent and you're trying to use like the formatting to make it pretty. Like now that this is Bash and we push up that PR and see it, right? If we can even just do it as just against your repo, it'll be all nice and colorified and things like that. And it'll be much more obvious what needs to go on.
Okay. Cool. So this is, man, this is so great to me, because like I try to convey this to my students, and Cedric, you're arguably fall in that exact same camp of like, there's not necessarily a single way, and a lot of things become convention-based, by project. JJ's got a lot of really good thoughts on Git etiquette, basically. So a lot of these things, I'm like really excited to hear like kind of his output on, like, because like it's exactly the discussions we just had. Like it could be a very simple, hey, you guys made a typo, we need to fix this. But like, what is the actual best way of submitting these changes, and how do you not piss them off in the process, and how do you get it taken seriously? Right. Like for instance, okay, great example. So we agreed that yes, changing these to 3 ticks in Bash is warranted and relevant. If I ran VS Studios or VS Code's like reformat code and it put blank lines between a whole bunch of stuff, that's generally speaking bad etiquette, because now you have a diff that combines content changes and a lot of noise. And you'll see new developers who get their new IDE and are like, holy shit, like my IDE does code reformatting. And they're like, I'm going to reformat it. And they set it for automatic because it feels very cool. And they go to edit someone else's code and they make one line of change and they hit save, and the IDE's like, boom, and reformats everything. And now you have a 200 line change for what is one actual code change. And finding the noise through that, and then your Git history, and you know, people have strong opinions and will get pissed off by that. That kind of thing, I would personally -1 the PR. I'd be like, no, piss off. Do them in 2, and I'm probably going to reject the code reformat 1 too, because unless you do the entire project at once and you tell everyone back off over the weekend, I'm going to reformat everything, and now we're going to honor these standards, it's just noise and inconsistency.
And having these habits at the very beginning of your career will only make your life easier, especially assuming you stay in the open source communities, right? That obviously we are open source engineers. I mean, that's what we are. There are some unspoken kind of rules that Jay's talking about, that if you have the habits now at the very, very beginning, you don't have to go through the hell that Jay and I had to go through.
Do you think the industry is changing now in like the past couple of years, as far as that?
Yeah. It's a constantly moving thing. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like the ideas of I hate using this term, I really do, but this is the best way to describe it. There are some best open source practices out there that we as an open source engineers, as a community of open source engineers, have all kind of come to agree upon. There's obviously, it's a gradient, right? Like there's some people who are super like, I have to do everything with column 80. There's a very specific format that I've got to do. And there's other people that say, I just use -M, say, fuck it, right? Like there's a whole world of this stuff. And I think as an industry, we've agreed upon that gradient, and there's social graces, if you will, that you should do as an open source engineer to make sure that you say that you're taking this stuff seriously. Like when you put a PR in, you describe what the PR is, so then they can look at the code and then say, oh, it's because it's doing this. And then in 6 months' time, when you're like, why did this change? You look at the PR and be like, oh, it's because Cedric wanted to do this. Oh, that makes sense. We should be doing this now. Or no, turns out Cedric did an RM/RF across our whole infrastructure. We probably shouldn't let Cedric do something else now, right?
No longer an intern.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Did we lose him? I think we might have
lost
lost him.
Jay for a second.
Yep.
Yeah, that New Jersey internet's not kicking in yet. Give him a second.
Yep. Maybe.
Uh-oh. And it's funny because he was just talking about his Ethernet like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, it's great. He accidentally kicked his router. Oh, there you go. He's coming back. Oh, that's good.
That's funny. That's really funny. Don't tell him I said that. You need a job for the summer. But no.
Hey.
Oh, there's 2 J's.
There's 2 J's.
Just one now.
So it kicked him out. He should be able to share his screen again, and we'll be back.
All right, awesome.
Computers, man. Can't live with them. Can't live without them.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, you're on mute, by the way. I can just see. Oh, uh-oh.
He licked his lips and left.
Yep.
All right, give him a second.
Yeah. So Cedric, what are you thinking about focusing on now that you have some taste of the open source world? Where are you feeling like your career is gonna go? Like, what do you think you want to do?
That's a great question, because I'll tell you what, like 4 weeks ago when I started this internship, I had no idea, because what they teach in school is so different. Like, my professors are like 70 years old, like 60 years old.
Yep.
Right. And so I'm happy that they're just starting to integrate like repositories and stuff in our classes and stuff. Like, it's old. So I think definitely the advocate side. Like, I love speaking and presenting, and I just finished up like a video on Podman, like explaining basics, port forwarding, stuff like that. And I was really excited for conferences and being able to do stuff at conferences this year, and then bam. But yeah, no, it's been a good time.
Awesome.
What's your favorite part?
So I genuinely get a talk high. I actually, after I talk and speak, I get a high, and it's something. It's okay, Jay, don't worry about it. We're filling in the dead air here. Like, I really enjoy speaking publicly, right? But the funny part is I actually hate the travel. I hate actually getting on a plane, going to the place, doing the actual, like, staying in a hotel and all. I absolutely hate it. But I love being in front of audiences and just presenting. It's one of those things that, you know, it took me a really long time to come to this point in my career, which is an interesting point too.
So did you enjoy moving more towards like a virtual work environment as it's been the past couple months?
No, because presenting to a webcam is not the same as presenting to an audience.
Okay.
It's a very different feel, especially after you come off stage when everything is just blown up in your face and something works or something doesn't. Seeing the people who come to you and talk to you after the fact is very, very valuable. Jay, we can hear you.
Unbelievable. I've never seen anything happen like that before. You know, it's funny because I was laughing at the whole your last question. Like, I have to do a talk in a couple weeks, and it got accepted, and it's a talk that's made to be done live. It's got audience kind of interaction, and I used to throw t-shirts at the audience like the old school talks used to do, and it's got like kind of this in-game trivia thing, and I've got to migrate it to online, and I can get it done, but it's gonna lose the energy because the beginning of it is the first like 10 minutes is poking fun at computer movies. And like, that's just, you have the audience laughing, and then you get more energized, and then they laugh more. And like, when I've done it live, it's my single favorite talk to do, and it's gonna so lose something because I watch like not Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert and Trevor Noah, and like I'm watching them try to do their monologues on a video cam and how they adapt to not having the audience participation, and their timings are different and a little bit off, and it's going to be the same types of things for this talk. So it's going to take a little bit to adapt that one, and it's definitely not going to be as good.
And there's a danger also that you can turn into a webinar before you know it. That's one reason why I like streaming so much, is because at least I have actual interaction with people, and we have drive-bys of people all the time. Like I watch the viewership on another screen to see what the number is constantly, to see that, oh, it looks like there was a drive-by that we must have been pushed up higher in the ranks of science and technology. So all of a sudden, a lot of people are like, oh, IBM, click, click, click kind of thing, right? And then all of a sudden they realize that it has nothing to do with what they care about, and I just see it just go right like that. So I don't know, it's fun. Anyway, sorry, rambling on. Where were we?
No, you needed to ramble because my computer decided to shit the bed, and I have finally unshitted it, and I forget where I was. So, let's see, project. So I've been doing some of the more simple things. Switch. Okay. Deploying the operators. So where we were after we fixed mine. A couple things that we noticed that are wrong in the README. We got 2 commands in and found 2 errors. So that
you fix that space also, right?
You see how you see it? Did actually, but that will drive me nuts.
There it is.
You know, all right. So this is going to be. I'm glad you point this out because we're not getting shit done today. But this is fine. I needed this today. It was a long week. I needed hanging out with nerds. I'm this way with my students. Like I see that space and I legitimately question the quality of what I'm seeing, and not necessarily like crazy extensively, but you know, if you don't proofread and you don't notice these little inconsistencies, we are an industry of exactness, that I see that and I'm like, okay, you didn't notice, or you didn't see that there is a small issue there. And then obviously, you know, .json instead of .yaml is significantly bigger issue. But and I'm telling my students this too. I was like, you need to proofread. I was like, you need exactness. I'm not gonna like let little stuff like this fly, because if you meant to type greater than or equal to 1 and you typed greater than 1, that is literally the difference between working and complete and total failure. And I'm always kind of leaning into them. I was like, I know I'm sounding like I'm being this obnoxious professor, and I probably am, but there's certain things in our field where that space, like, yeah, it still runs, but why is it not consistent? Why is that extra space there? Did you delete something? Is it just a little bit sloppy? And it's just one of those smells that kind of triggers me. And I'm like, okay, this is how we're going to do things. That's fine. But so I'm very glad you pointed that out to fix that, because it makes me feel better about my own compulsions.
Well, it also enforces the pair programming rules, right? You have 4 pairs of eyes looking at something to be able to make sure that you can catch these things, because you know that's the only way to make sure things are a little bit better.
And I'm laughing because I told you about my former intern who works in the Open Data Hub team, who I was going to ask to kind of hang out with us and either log in or be in chat. There is a comment in here, probably am, he says, in regard to my comment where I'm probably an asshole professor. That's what that was for, and that is Anish. So Anish, meet JJ. He's a developer advocate at IBM. We've been doing these streams now for 3-ish months on Friday afternoons, doing a lot of just general OpenShift stuff. And then Cedric is my new intern for this summer. So Lord only knows the kind of shit you're going to be saying in chat to him, but yeah. And then you guys, Anish over there in chat, former intern, really, really bright dude, then just came back to Red Hat full time, and he's a developer at Open Data Hub. So hopefully any kind of issues you run into, and hopefully it doesn't take offense to me talking shit about like the amount of typos we saw in the first 2 lines or the spices or anything like that. But yes, so thank you for liking it, Anish. Hopefully you realize the tone here too. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this stuff and see how far we get. So, so this next batch of steps, if we remember back to our talk about operators. Are you
part of the correct project? Just make sure. Sanity check.
Yes.
Okay.
OC project, so I just called this
Cool.
Twitch because I have no creativity. Operators are deployed as images, and then when they run, they're going to need permissions to talk to Kubernetes on behalf of us. Now, what's interesting though is very common paradigm is these 4 files: our service account, which is our RBAC, well, the actual service account the operator is going to use. The role is the RBAC configuration form. The role binding combines the two. And then the operator is going to be the image deployment. So none of that surprises me. This one is a little bit interesting to me. Now is not the time to dig further into why that line is there and why it needed to be added to the operator, but it's a slightly suspect, but not necessarily wrong. And if you have details on that, by all means, let me know. But yeah, like I said, I'm definitely not saying, oh, this is wrong per se. It's just you don't typically see that. Is ultimately what I'm getting at. And then that last line, the operator deployment. So we're deploying the operator now. It's going to be fetching the image. This demo uses Selden, right? I suspect it was due to that operator. So Cedric, good lesson here. He may be right, but that's also a great presentation technique where if I had gotten that question and I'm uncomfortable giving the answer or I don't know, blame something else. In this case, the Selden operator, which is not their stuff. And, I say that and it sounds kind of punchy and tongue in cheek. I have 100% been like, oh, this is probably for someone else's stuff and not taking claim, because realistically in like an actual event presentation, they're not going to follow up with you and find out for sure if you were full of shit. And it's a way to kind of save some face, I think. And then based on the delay, Anish might just be seeing that rationale now, and the chat might come in slower, but he may be right. It may be for the Selden operator itself, but yeah, it's an interesting side lesson to it all. Okay, operator is running. Very good. So now we have the operator that we can use to actually deploy Open Data Hub. This is going to say, just check to make sure our operator is up and running. Okay, so we need to edit the custom resource to enable Selden and Kafka. They've provided a modified, I'm not sure, does that mean I'm supposed to use this modified version? Or is that already there?
Gotta clear up those instructions again, huh? You're asking that question. Be a little bit more descriptive.
It's yeah, because it's striking me as funny that they're saying we provide this, but then I have to do a CP command and edit some stuff myself.
Are there more things inside of there that you could change, and that's what they're trying to say? And they just gave you a same default here? Why would they just not give you the same defaults in the first place and then say if you need to make changes, make changes?
Yeah, that one is a little bit. Okay, so let's look at what the actual CR looks like. It's looking, I bet you if I do this now. Raw, where's the raw version here? Open raw. So if we take theirs, and I don't know if this output's going to be too readable, but let's give it a shot. My guess is the only differences are going to be
quite a few.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. That didn't pan out the way I wanted it to. Let's just use their modified version and see what happens. But we will sanity check this stuff. So let's go into their and. This is funny to me. Jupyter deployment created by Graham. Graham used to be on my team, actually. Very big Jupyter Hub fan. So if we look under Selden, we should see ODH deploy true. Good.
That's a different spacing to what the example is.
Yeah, that's interesting because you're right. That is 100% legitimately wrong without those spaces because that's not valid YAML. Okay, so as we go through, clean these up. Anish had been watching and he mentioned to me in Slack that he appreciated these bash changes. Cool, we're doing that.
No, you can actually, well, if you want to, be even more so, put a line underneath that VI, close it off, and then
And then do YAML.
Yep.
Okay.
It'll look prettier too.
It will definitely look prettier. You know, we'll do a quick love Graham's book. That's awesome. That's really cool to hear that, Helper. This is all right. So quick side note, and then we'll say something like add ensure
stanzas are enabled or something like that.
Stanzas. So I'm not going to nitpick this, but in the interest of fun discussion, what is your thoughts on saying VI here versus just saying the instruction that says open it in an editor?
Oh, yeah, that's actually a good question. By default, I just put VI. I always have. That level of semantics, I've just kind of been like, VI is enough to know that it opens, and that's how I've always done it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. In my opinion, you're already using a copy command right before, like you're still in the terminal. I feel like,
yeah,
you know, that's just intuitive.
Yep. Should have said Emacs instead. You know, Anish, so this is your first time in the stream, but you just made a friend in JJ. So that's it. Yeah. I don't actually have Emacs installed in this Fedora build. So
you got Nano on there, don't you?
I don't care to check. So we're gonna say I'm gonna do this. I don't know how to. No, we're not gonna.
Wow.
I'm actually surprised it didn't say. Okay, packages providing this are. But yeah, VI, I do like that as a safe assumption though, because you can fairly safe assume, and if not, anyone running through this had better understand to translate that into your editor. Otherwise, they're going to struggle with understanding these commands anyway.
This is an acceptable, stable takes of being able to walk through this whole process.
Cool. And Anish, you're probably getting this from it, but we're doing a fork with some changes just for the actual like broken pieces because the first couple commands had some issues. And then a lot of these discussions are largely me and JJ nerding out and kind of bringing Cedric, and you really, because you're only like 2 years older than Cedric, kind of up to speed on older school things. But this is a neat little dissection into how do you write documentation, and there's no necessarily best way, and JJ's got really good insight to a lot of this stuff and how to do things on GitHub and open sourcey. So I'm bouncing things off of him that are internal questions I would probably hit and then just make an answer and go. But I love hearing like from someone with a shit ton of experience and like, what is your take on it and how would you do these kind of things? So don't be like, oh, we're going to nitpick the shit out of your project and your documentation. A lot of these tangent conversations are purely for the nerd aspect of it. So I hope you're not sitting there being like, these guys are being such assholes to documentation right now. Okay, so we edited that fraud detection. Require special setups. Add your username to the Kafka admins list. So let's just try to follow this directly and see what happens.
And that's another opportunity to do the YAML again.
Yeah.
And also that's broken again too.
Why? The annotation, that'll work for a list actually. Because the list only has to be, I'm almost positive, but for consistency and readability, we're going to, I'm gonna update it too, but your username, I didn't know that. I'm assuming it means my.
Who am I? It's to the who am I talking to the OpenShift cluster, isn't it?
That's a real good question. You're probably right. I guess that would make more sense.
Yeah. So
that's always what I ended up using.
Yeah, absolutely. Put that in the PR too, to be like run who am I to find out who you are or something to that effect.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, cool.
Smart.
So bash. And to Cedric, for you, hopefully this kind of PR will be appreciated. There's always generally speaking, in 9 times out of 10, I think documentation updates are appreciated. You know, I do have, admittedly, literally at this moment, this kind of gut reaction of like, I hope I don't seem like a jerk submitting like these like, oh, I'm fixing your shit for you, but I don't think it'll be taken that way. Typically, most teams would be like, okay, good, like someone brand new, all the stuff I told you about, you're brand new, I want your brand new eyes on stuff. This is the exact same situation, except I'm old and brand new to this product. And look, I don't know all of these assumptions. And if it wasn't clear to me, then it's potentially fuzzy to someone else. Add your
No, just under the bash right there. Just put the who am I? So
yeah, I was just gonna quantify that as cluster.
Okay.
And then.
Yep. So if you were copying and pasting it, you'd see it and be like, oh, this is what I should do here. Type.
We could, and I'm not going to do this, but a neat approach would be actually we save this output as a variable, and then it is simply a cat command where we append it and we save the VI entirely. Yeah. Or we skip the VI entirely. We tend to do things, and this is where like developer versus developer advocate, but that's not really a fair thing. Developers will give instructions, and then I've become more accustomed to assuming the user's an idiot. So the less I can say they're going to fat finger the YAML, and if I can have it be just click, 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 if I could use sed and cat and all that kind of stuff, it could be kind of nice.
It's for repeatability, right? Because God knows you're going to be doing it 3 a.m. before a conference talk. You're going to be like, I need to set everything up. Oh God, what did I do?
Yeah, exactly. Did I, I did save it. I can't remember. This is another kind of problem with this setup though, is that I'm modifying my repo. So I should, but I don't know how to overwrite vars, but this is potentially problematic as well, that I've now I've now edited a Git file with local information, but I don't want to spend too much time dealing with that. I just wanted to see, they don't have insert username on there. So we could theoretically.
Yeah, they don't, there's nothing, you're right. So you would have to actually edit the upstream code to put that variable in there. But when we create the Ansible playbook, we can use a template for this.
Correct.
Where we wouldn't even have to worry about it, right? So I think for the instruction piece, that makes sense that we're walking through all this. But when we turn this into a playbook, where you can just do Ansible apply, is it? I'm blanking. Or Ansible run? No.
Ansible playbook run, yeah.
Run. So when you do that, we can have all these variables already be put in there. So we'll be fine.
Let's say we were to do it without the VI though, because now I'm kind of intrigued. So we would store cluster users, the OC who am I, and then it's Jesus Christ, I might echo cluster user. No.
That'll tack it on the top. You need to find a way to get it at the bottom. And also you need to put the dash in there too, don't forget, because it's the list.
Good point. Wait, are you sure that puts it at the top?
Very sure.
Kafka, there we go with that thing. $.
See? Oh, I was wrong.
It is at the bottom, but it lost. Oh, because I screwed up the indentation here. Okay.
Nice.
So let's clean that up.
I sit corrected. Because I'm not standing.
Oh, we got it. And then cat. All right, cool.
Wow.
I actually do kind of dig that. So let's find. I love that you have your own laugh track, and that you're the one who controls it, and you do it for your own. You do it for your own jokes. Appends and creates a file. That's what I thought too. Okay, so we'll do that, and add your cluster name, username. And then we can delete this entirely, and then remember to put my other command in. Shit. It's all watch my fun VI. Uppercase S at the end of that sentence. Thank you, sir. There's a way to do that in a single character, but damned if I can remember it. Okay, so Kafka installation requires special setup. The following steps are to configure Kafka. Add your cluster username to the admins list using the following commands. Okay, cluster user, and then we echo that. We have some spaces. We have a dash, and that's fine because that'll be consistent with what they do. Okay. And then if we look at what's been done, proper indentation, cluster user. Cool. Okay. One more step toward it being idiot proof because remember, users are dumb. Okay, so Here's our Ansible stuff. So this one's super interesting because this threw Cedric off a bit, where it has instructions for what I believe is installing Ansible. No, okay, so pip file. So this is going to create a new environment. Let's just see what happens when I run this. Yeah, I see I don't even have pipenv to start with. That's a problem. 313. Let's try just straight up running the Ansible playbook, and then we will make a mental note that we should probably come back and revisit that. Namespace is Twitch. Let's see what happens. No inventory. This is fine. So we're actually running some Ansible. This looks kind of nice.
Things are happening.
Things are happening. And I'm going to do that real quick. It was tilde. What was tilde, JJ?
To change the spacing from lowercase to uppercase or uppercase to lowercase.
Ah, thank you. It's Venn Adventures, man. I'm not at that one yet. So yes, this becomes another interesting from a documentation standpoint, where that pipenv, there's no prerequisites to start with on here. Cluster and admin permissions. So
I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
they don't even explicitly say you need Ansible.
Yeah. Right? I mean, presumably though, this pip install is actually installing Ansible.
You see, yeah.
Yeah, because it's setting the packages we want, the Ansible and the OpenShift package. So this answers the earlier question about how do you get these K8s modules in Ansible. It's just this OpenShift package. But this is actually kind of neat. I do dig this as an approach because it gets you around saying, user, you have to install Ansible. And if I believe, looking at this will set up a new virtual env and install Ansible and OpenShift into it. So it's actually kind of elegant in that respect. I do want to say that we should put in the prerequisites. You have pip and env installed. Yeah,
right? To gain it, you need to have it. So like I don't even know what it is, right? Like I've never used it before, so I would have had to figure that out when I came across that command.
And I'm a Python guy, and I've spent a fair amount of time doing Python, but I've never used this. Now I'm not saying I'm the Python guy, so it may be very common, and I don't know. Anish, what was the really to never having used pipenv? Because I use the wrapper scripts and just create my own virtual environments.
Okay, so it's basically bundler or npm for Python. Yeah, I did not know that. Brew install pip env or appcall or DNF install pip env.
Yeah, it's even finding it for me, and I could have, but I would have done. So Anish, kind of for you, I would do Anish, and then I would run.
This seems pretty powerful.
And then actually the way I have going back to our talk about prompts and stuff like that, these brackets do have intentional uses. So that's my Git information. That's my Python virtual environment information. So up here, I'm not in a VNV. Down here I am. So I have that at a glance on my command line. And then you've noticed obviously the directory in there, but back to you, Cedric, when we said that originally there was just the octothorpe or $, like I like to know what directory I'm in as compared to just constantly being like, where am I? But yeah, I would do that. And then the interesting part though is I doubt I can just do I would usually expect to see a requirements file in here, and then I would do a pip install -r requirements. Pipenv, maybe it's more common than I know of. I'm completely willing to acknowledge that, like, I learned something here, which is kind of very cool. And I think it's a more elegant solution than saying manually create the environment, because if you don't have those wrapper scripts, I don't know how to do it off the top of my head. So yeah, I'm okay with, I like our proposed change of you have to have pip env accessible. Really what we did there was use Ansible to run the playbook. In fact, let's change that to capital A.
Mm-hmm. If you have the lowercase a, you should put it in the ticks, so it's the command, but the actual title of the noun is Ansible.
Okay, so since I'm referring to an Ansible playbook,
mm-hmm.
and I just realized I'm putting colons after all of these, but they don't, so I don't want to mix and match those. Okay, cool. So we've done our cluster, we've done, this is bash. And hopefully that little note there alleviates some of the confusion that someone like Cedric hit, where not familiar with Python at all, so sees that and gets a little bit caught up in the fact that it's ultimately just running the Ansible playbook. Maybe we're being overly compulsive on that one, but okay, check that the operator is running. Cool, that looks good. I don't see this strimsy one though, and that seems to be a problem. Because that's the Kafka operator, which does not seem to have been deployed.
Yeah, that's the same thing that ended up happening to me, I believe.
That's interesting. Let's try running the playbook again, and we'll look at the output this time. Okay, so namespace is going to exist. And this is...
Sorry about that, guys.
Failed. Strimsy operator is failing. Okay. I don't want to do this. Let's do this. Suspend it. Okay, so here's a problem. Our Kafka operator is not deploying. And I'll be damned if I can actually see any kind of output on it. Oh, failed to find exact match for extensions v1 beta. It's not in beta anymore deployment. It is in apps, he says, reasonably sure. Where would I have an example of this?
Jay, what version of OpenShift is this?
4.4, and this is, yeah, and this is where part of the problem is coming in, Anish, is that we're trying to do this on 4.4. So part of this is also going to be making those updates. That'll do it. Okay, so it's apps v1, right? As compared to core. Okay, deploy ODH objects. Now let's do this. Beta F.
Is it reading in the YAML file and doing the change there, or because if it's not actually
some kind of template, yeah. We've got template item.path. Operator objects. Strimsy, maybe? No, that's not going to help. Try deployment instead. There we go. All right, let's give that a shot. I don't have a fork of this repo, so that change is not going to get. I'll deal with that in a second. And I'll even make JJ happy by adding a new remote instead of just straight up deleting this shit.
Good boy. Good boy.
I know how to do it. I just never want to because it's just annoying as shit. Okay, so Ansible, is this the right directory? Let's see what happens here. Verify namespace. Unfortunately, my colors are not the easiest to tell. We're failing. Find exact match for apps v1 deployment. Son of a bitch. Do I make a deployment?
What's funny is you're going to get like a similar error message when you get to Rook as well, if I remember correctly.
I know he was saying, oh my God, I forgot GitHub change your UI. And this is still
it's just jarring.
Jarring. That's the perfect word, because it's not worse or anything like that. It just feels weird. Apps/v1. Oh, I wrote the Go package name Rookie mistake.
So some UX person was like, people don't like squares, they like circles, so we should circle everything. And if you've been looking at GitHub for the last X amount of years, all of a sudden you don't see the squares, and that's why it's jarring. Because you're like, what the? In my brain, the button is supposed to be a square, not a circle or rounded, right?
Hey, Nish, by the way, I take it no one in your team is actively working on this stuff now to the point that this is being duplicated someplace else. I guess I'm suspecting the work we're doing is just kind of net new because you haven't had to run the demo in a while.
You should put it in CI, man. Have it running every day.
I think, honestly, I could see them being happy with doing that if we give them a role. And that's part of the problem, is that this only exists as manual instructions because it was a Summit demo. And, here's where I try to stop sounding pretentious, because that would be great. But we all know the reality of the situation of, hey guys, we've got a month and a half and we've got this massive Summit demo. It's going to be a whole bunch of duct tape and hopes and dreams to get it working. Yep. And then it becomes, Cedric become familiar with this term technical debt, where you're like, I'm going to do some shit now and I'm going to go back and clean it up later. And later never comes.
Never happens.
We are later right now. But this is fine. This is a great intern experience. This is good for me starting to get my hands dirty with this stuff.
What's the saying? What is the most permanent thing in the world? A temporary solution.
Yeah, I like that. And it's so true, because I'm getting so screwed up because this isn't Tmux and it's terminals, and I don't like my UI because they all tend to blur together. Okay, let's go back to Ansible Playbook. I forgot tiers. Yes, exactly. He's only been, remember, he was my intern 2-3 years ago. So like, he's very new into his career. And like the amount of times he's come to me with these types of situations, and I'm just like, welcome to the industry. The fact that he brought up tiers that quickly, you are just getting that beaten down feeling, and I love it.
He's become seasoned.
He's seasoned. Yes. I had a manager once. This is also different. All right, we'll do this in a second. He told me, how did he say it? Oh, I can't remember. I'm gonna misphrase it, but I had said something in chat. I was new to the team, and it was a different manager parallel to mine, and I had pointed out a fairly pessimistic comment where it was a whole bunch of young guys in Brunel. So they were in their early 20s and like, yeah, we're going to do this. It's going to work. And I had a pessimistic, what I would call pragmatic comments of like, all right, well, we need to slow down. There's no way this is going to work. And I said it nicer than that. But he messaged me and somehow we were talking and he's like, that's the kind of unbridled pessimism I know comes with experience. And he's like, I can tell immediately that you're not like fresh in your career. I'm like, yeah, I was in like my early 30s at this point. I have a good 10 years, 15, well, yeah, probably about 12, 13 years under my belt. So I've seen enough shit where I'm like, there's no way it's going to be as simple as you guys are thinking it is.
No, not at all. Nope, never is.
Okay, so this is making it look like the entire Strimzy operator deployment is old. It wasn't just that beta. I'm seeing required value is missing, invalid value. So I'm wondering if a more prudent solution isn't to reconcile this against what we would see if I deployed it directly. So, okay, I only said half of that out loud. Come with me for a second. We are going to hop over into the web UI. I'll make this a tiny bit bigger, but not to the point where I can't see it myself. I'm going to go to installed operators, and we're going to open Twitch, and I'm genuinely not expecting to see the operator show up here because we didn't install it through Operator Hub. So not terribly surprised at that. But
wait, it doesn't, if you install an operator and you don't use the hub, it still doesn't show in installed operators?
So realize what installed the operator means in the context of what we did. What we did was we created a service account, we created a role, we created a customer resource definition, and we created an image. Or created a pod by deploying an image. Those taken together act in the operator paradigm, but there's nothing about that that says I'm an operator. Those are things functioning on built-in kube constructs that are behaving in such a way that we would call an operator pattern. OLM takes all of those pieces and wraps some metadata around it and lets me say, all of those pieces are called the strimzy operator, install that thing for me. And so instead of these 5 steps, it's 1 step. And then because I asked OLM to do it, it's not unlike if I installed an RPM manually and then tried to use DNF to inspect things about it. And it's not going to have that upstream notion and things like that. Not entirely apples to apples there, but conceptually fairly close. We kind of backdoored the operator in place, but where the analogy falls apart is an RPM is still an RPM in both cases. An operator really is just a conventions paradigm way of using existing constructs. And we talk about them like, oh my God, do you have an operator for this? Did you write an operator? Do you have an operator? Blah, blah, blah. It's really just like a mechanism of using existing things. So Anish, do you want to try using the 0.6 version of the operator? You're basically building something from scratch. Not 100% sure of where you're going there. Because I don't know, because we're trying to install the version of the operator. I guess my question is, which operator are you talking about? The strimzy operator? Or are you talking about, because I'm in Open Data Hub operator, you're talking about like using a different Git branch. And then I sit here and stare at chat waiting for it to catch up and him to hear my question. Okay, ODH, Open Data Hub 05 was built for 3.11, is definitely better tested. How do you know I'm using ODH 0.5? Is it from the repo I'm using? Because I did just check out master basically. Or did I not? I cloned this first line here where I just cloned the Open Data Hub operator. I'm assuming, this is a good question though. What branch is it? It's just on master, so I would assume, my dude, this would be super, super useful if you were to hop in Zoom with us, but I understand if you don't want to. 0.6 uses customized. So this entire step of install Open Data Hub, we're arguably following old instructions and we could achieve through the 0.6 release and jump up to this install rook and just ditch this crap entirely.
Oh wow!
Is what I'm hearing out of what what Anish is saying here.
That would make life easier.
That would definitely make life easier. And give Cedric his first real. Well, no, I'm saying that things that are breaking will not break. Let's take a different step, Anish. If I were to come to you without having this GitHub repo installed and up and running, and I said, hey, bud, I need to install Open Data Hub with Kafka and Selgin metrics enabled, what would you point me at in terms of installation instructions? Because ultimately, you know, it's nice to step back and see the forest through the trees. Like they do have a great section here saying this is what we're doing. So
he'll tell you to go talk to this guy named Jay Dobbs. See if he can get that done for you.
Aha. Okay. So copy link address and let's see what this pulls up. And this is going to give Cedric his first really solid, like pessimistic feeling if the whole time he was following instructions that were likely not the best ones to follow anyway.
That would hurt me. That would be tough.
Yeah, you're gonna want to drink after this, I think. Deploy. We are relying on customize, KF cuddle, and Kubeflow operator. I don't know what the hell any of these things are. 2 ways to deploy are using KF cuddle. That's not a thing I have installed, right?
I've never even heard of that before.
Me neither. So we're gonna figure out what that is. Over at Kubeflow, the only change is to use this repo instead of Kubeflow. Okay. Anish, there's a delay here, so you got to context the you won't with a little more wrapper around it because I'm not quite sure what of all of the dumb shit I just said that applies to. Following the Kubeflow operator deployment and using
bring up Kubeflow for us. Let's see that.
Yeah, let's check it out. Oh my God, do you see the little drop down up here when I hover too high? Or Zoom doesn't show you that?
Sometimes it's like a little couple words.
Okay, because it's like every time I go to hit a tab, it's just like, oh, participants and new shares and stuff. You're making assumptions about the knowledge I have. I mean, you know me. I don't know squat about Open Data Hub or a lot about any of this kind of Jupyter or any of this area. I know OpenShift poorly, but I know OpenShift. So if that helps kind of set connotations, you won't for okay. I won't for have it being installed. Gotcha.
What the fuck is it?
Instructions for deploying Kubeflow from the command line.
Oh, it's an ML platform.
Which is probably why I have absolutely no experience with it, and also probably why they're using it.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at installing Kubeflow. So it's 3:30. You want to take a quick 5-minute break before we completely pivot and start playing with Kubeflow?
Yeah, sounds good. All right, I'll hit the button, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Cool. Anish, please stick around. This has already been super helpful.
All right, yeah, we're off.
All right, I'll be right back.
Cool. Woo. Actually, more caffeine sounds like a good idea.
Funny guy? Funny guy? Funny guy in there? What are you talking about? See. Whoa. Hello? Is anyone there? I would like to speak to them.
You can have one. Both of y'all can have one.
Take the one right there.
All right, I gotta pick up. Cut it up.
So this is funny. Nisha's telling me that they've migrated over to GitHub.
Ah, nice.
All right, so let's see. Option of Kubeflow and upstreams due to customers refusing. All right, we're back. So first of all, sorry everybody. I muted the music, not my mic. My bad. Sorry about that. Oh well. And you guys probably, you may even heard my kids running around in the room. That's all good. So who are we and what are we doing? So my name is Jason Nobis. I'm a developer advocate at at Red Hat. Let's try that again. I work at Red Hat on OpenShift. It's been a long week today. Cedric?
Hi, oh man, yo.
Right?
I'm Cedric Clyburn, a OpenShift developer advocate intern for the summer with Jason.
And what are we doing? So we are working with a Red Hat product called Open Data Hub. And they have a fraud detection demo that we've done at the past 2 Red Hat summits. And the current installation for it is fairly manual and just not up to date with the latest versions of OpenShift. Apologies, I'm like scrolling around like it's not like screwing up Twitch right now. And not necessarily up to date with the latest version of OpenShift, which is 4.4, and with 4.5 coming out in like a week and a half anyway, but I'm hoping it'll be very nice, Anish, very, very nice. I'm hoping this will be more compatible with 4.5 once we make these changes. So we joked around for a while with the existing instructions, brought Anish in chat, who usually talking copious amounts of shit against me. And he works on the Open Data Hub team. And he's pointed out that what we're trying to do was an older-ish version of it. And we were running into some issues getting an operator deployed because the operator version was too old. He then pointed us to the fact that they've migrated over to to GitHub. And I think we were on stream, we were talking about GitLab versus GitHub, right? Okay, so to everyone who was around earlier when we had that discussion, turns out they ended up on GitHub anyway. And he pointed us to this Open Data Hub manifest directory, repository, for using Customize to actually install Open Data Hub. And actually this is nice because it's got a little description of all of the pieces that are included in Open Data Hub. I knew about Jupyter Hub. I probably could have named like a third of these because I knew about Grafana and I knew about Kafka. Airflow and Argo definitely outside of what I've kind of looked into so far, but still some components in the process of conversion. Selden. So, okay, interesting. So we'll see how this shapes up. And it's saying here that we can rely on Customize, KF Cuddle, and the Kubeflow operator for deployment. And the 3 of us sat here and said, I can read those words out loud, but I don't know what any of them mean. So I think we're going to, I'd like to go the KF Cuddle route. KF.
Well, hold on. The Kubeflow operator isn't on the operator hub, and can we just be like, install, bitch?
Shit, that's a great question. That is a great question.
That's the technical term, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't notice I didn't question it. Kubeflow. Okay, so we have a third option here. Do you have access to the community operators? Yeah. So Anish, as I saw your comment, I had been doing the exact same thing. And there you go. So there's our delay. But now what gets interesting is, do we want to go this route?
There's somebody who wrote a book on operators that I might be able to call in to work on this. I'm just saying.
Shit, I need to come over there. Gotta start whoring the book out again. Yeah, I actually, this is probably our best bet. And the end goal behind all of this is we want to automate this fraud detection setup, this fraud detection demo setup, and then ultimately make it available as part of workshops and some internal systems and things like that. Also, Anish, actually, I'm going to be reaching out to you otherwise because our Catacoded demo, so learn.openshift.com, we just got feedback from someone saying I think he prioritized it, that the thing people that he spoke to were looking for, and I forget exactly who he spoke to, customers or users in something, but an open data hub, Catacoded scenarios. So either Cedric or myself or some combination will likely be reaching out to you and getting started on that in the next couple of weeks, especially if, I'm an open data hub expert after today, because I'm clearly going down that path right now. In the interest of automating this, it'll be done in Ansible, so it can tie into our systems. And I think that this ultimately makes sense to, yay, thank you. You don't have to hide from the camera that much. Cheers. And this is just coffee, despite that, cheers. My wife just completely just like, Anthony, stay off camera. JJ's kids were just here, it's fine. Okay, much better. I think this makes sense. I think we will, Cedric, we can address afterward how we can go and write Ansible to deploy this rather than going through the UI. But for now, let's go through the UI and say that entire front step, we are just deploying the operator. 0.6, this looks good. Anish was saying 0.5 was the older version. So we're going to install it. All namespaces on the cluster. So this makes me concerned that I need to clean up some of the old stuff. So let's delete this Selden deployments one. Let's do that. So CRD, custom resource definitions. Let's see if I can talk and type at the same time. Cluster wide now. Open. We'll delete this CRD. And Anish, can you think of any other CRD? I think it's only the two that are created. I can just look. So open data hubs. Okay, so that's what we deleted. And then cat Selden. Wow. I keep going to call that Sheldon. It's called machine learning.Selden. So that's what we deleted too. JJ, I know I went fast there, but I do want credit for actually using head, which is one of those things that you just like, who the hell actually does it?
Yep, very true.
Thank you, appreciate it. And Kafka, thank you. Nope. Son of a bitch.
So because these are cluster-wide operators, that's the reason why you're walking up to now clean up all the work we've done, because we don't want to have namespace collisions or anything like that. Is that what's going on?
Almost.
Almost.
The CRDs are always deployed at the cluster level.
Okay.
So installing two operators, regardless of if this one was namespaced or cluster-wide, it's going to try to reinstall these CRDs, and it's going to not be happy because they already exist.
Got it.
Wait. Sorry.
Wouldn't so this is genuine questions here. Because they're cluster wide, but they're different versions, wouldn't the new version take precedence all over the old stuff? And like, isn't that the whole point, where it's idempotent if it needs to be, but if not, it's desired state. Your new state is the new version.
Agreed, and we might be right. What has me concerned and going through this route just to mitigate risk is that we didn't use OLM to install this the first time, and we are going to use OLM to install it the new version. And
so the possibility of hanging chads, if you will, sitting around that might come back and screw us in the future.
Exactly. Okay. You bring up an interesting point. I don't know what the two versions of the same CRD at the same time, and it drove us insane. Yeah, there's a theory there about how it should work. There's the wonkiness of the fact that we didn't use OLM in both cases and follow an actual upgrade path. And then there's just sheer moving parts that I don't feel like dealing with right now. Like, in the interest of just getting things going, like that's an experiment for another time type of thing. Okay, so clean up the CRDs. I might as well just delete the entire Twitch project, although that shouldn't be a problem. Because the original one had the pieces that got deployed, but shouldn't be a particular problem. I'm not going to mess with it right now. So we're going to install it on all namespaces, beta or legacy. That's an interesting channel name. Let's stick with beta because that, oddly enough, sounds better than legacy. Really giving us a lot of great options here, Anish. And it did say, now I see that KDEF that was referred to here, KFDEF. This is the custom resource defined by the Kubeflow by the Open Data Hub operator. Oh, because I'm in the wrong project. Yay, that's his progress. Succeeded, green boxes, always good. Okay, so I've installed that, and in theory, everything should be up and running. Beta channel legacy is 0.5. Okay, this makes sense, do I have to now? No, I guess all of this step just said, no, deploy Open Data Hub. So that was the operator. Now I actually have to deploy Open Data Hub itself, which is, I'm getting confused by like the later in there, but this literally says create an instance of Open Data Hub. That's what we want to do. Anish, any defaults I should change? In theory, this should work if the operator is written correctly, but again, let's just kind of take advantage of the fact that you're here. Status shouldn't actually be here, but that's fine. Can I just use the default YAML as is? I expect his answer is going to be like, it's a good question, give it a shot and see what happens. I want to say, Jesus, take the wheel. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm okay with a kitchen sink installation because I don't know enough to say what I want, what I don't want, and this did not seem to. Oh shit, Landon, what's up? I meant to message you about coming to this. Oh, good. If you could see my Slack chat, you can see it at the top. Someone with a brain has joined us, Landon. Landon is I'm debating if I just want to straight up invite him into it. All right, perfect. Super bright dude over in the AI COE, Center of Excellence team. The one who I originally working with that kind of handed this stuff over. Thank you. One of the engineers working on it. Much easier way of saying it. So great. Anish, you can hang out and we can watch Landon answer things that you probably should know, except he'll give us the right answers. This is going to be awesome. I did my kitchen sink installation. Looks like we're still deploying some stuff. And let's see what happens. So this, Landon, this should be enough for the fraud detection demo, correct? I love his friggin' username and everything. This makes me so happy right now. Okay. So our pod's running. This is one of those interesting situations where I've done so many operator demos and talks and stuff like that, where I know how the operator works. I don't know how the end user is supposed to know its completed deployment, because I usually know what resources I'm expecting to see.
Yep.
And now that I'm
very good question.
Like shit, like, yeah, is
it done? I don't know. It says running. Is that good?
And status may be updated. And even if it is, though, that was not showing me it in there. Let's see. Details. Listings where I should know what I'm doing here. Yeah, this is one of those where I'm so in the weeds from actually like writing the book and all the talks on it that the actual usage kind of gets away from me. Be newer compared to that, and the demo is documented. Yeah, so Landon, we one of the things that brought us down this path is we were following the fraud detection stuff and hit an issue deploying, which one was it? Was it Kafka? Because it was still using the beta APIs and the operator install piece was out of date. And then Anish said, you know what, maybe we just skip all that entirely, and pointed us at this Git repo. And then we kind of came up with the same decision. We're like, there's this community operator, let's just install that. And then when Cedric and I go back off of this, we can just continue to use that community operator in what we produce.
Is there a way to add a install of an operator via playbook?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We do it elsewhere in our workshops and stuff like that.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head what it looks like, but at the end of the day, there's OLM. Let's see if I can do this.
Well, the reason I'm asking is that would be the natural progression of what we're doing, right? Is to rip out all this installation stuff and just put add to that playbook. Hey, homeboy, install, operate, or run playbook, get environment, I guess.
Yeah, what happens is it's called a subscription in OLM. And I think all it's going to boil down to is, and Cedric, definitely make note of this. In Agnostic D that Anish is pointing out, in our system that runs the Ansible playbooks to provision our workshops, the Ansible playbook should be able to just create a subscription to, I'm assuming we created an Open Data Hub operator. And what happens is the OLM metadata for this operator says, I rely on a specific CR, custom resource definition of type Selden or whatever it is. And OLM then resolves, cool, I have an operator that provides that resource type. This is interesting because I actually may start using Open Data Hub as an example in talks I do about operators, because I don't have a canned example that shows the dependencies. I just talk about it. Because I haven't really set up an OLM talk because, God, I really don't like it. And so much of it's changing that writing the metadata, it's just not worth it talking about. Like that entire chapter of the book is like invalid at this point because they just are doing an entirely new bundle. But once I do start doing more OLM content, I really like Open Data Hub, A, because it's a Red Hat product I get to use as the example, but B, it has this kind of dependency resolution. So I've talked about it in the stream, I've talked about it in other places where this operator is defined as relying on other resource types, and OLM is saying those resource types are provided by these operators. I'm going to install them too. So project, not product. Yes, thank you for actually, that is a very valid clarification there. So ODS is a community operator and a reference are. It's not supported by art. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Red Hat related. I appreciate when you guys are both jumping in like, oh, slow down, stupid. This is not a Red Hat thing right now. Do not commit us to anything. This is where I should be careful about what I say. And go figure, the two guys working on it are like, whoa, what are you signing this up for? I love it. That's awesome. But this is cool. So Cedric, it should be as simple as creating this description. And actually, what I'm even going to suggest you do is something like this, where you do a get on the specific subscription, and you say, give me the YAML version of it, and it's going to spit out what you may be able to copy and paste to the spec and most of this beginning stuff, and then this is your manifest. And in theory, this is all I need to bring us back to this point of having Open Data Hub installed, I think. That's the theory.
That's
that
so
should
beautiful.
be. Yeah, if it works right, it is. And then CSV.
Oh, yeah. Fingers crossed.
CSV is the actual operator itself. So that earlier stuff was getting the operator installed, and then this is actually deploying this kdef kind. Actually, no, let's do this. Kfdef. Yeah, this is the guy. This is what I was talking about. So we create the subscription to the Open Data Hub operator. We create the Open Data Hub KFDef, a Kubeflow definition, I'm assuming that stands for. I just keep struggling with saying it out loud. But again, we'll be able to just take a snapshot of that and then take the spec, and then this is going to be the defaults is generated. So it should be those two manifests and get us back to this point of up and running. Cool. So that gets us all the way down to install rook ceph. And can we cheat here too? 9. Okay. Landon, you alluded to the fact that this is out of date for 4.4. Do you have, would it just be called OCS? No, I guess storage would probably be a better term to search on. Yeah, do you think I could just do OpenShift container storage? That'd be really cool if it is, because this is this is where we get into that product versus project shit again. All right, so we're going to do this now. Install container storage, specific namespace. Oh, it's already installed. Oh, shit. What did I type in? Oh, operator recommended. Gee, it's right in front of me and I'm actually not reading it. I'm sure everyone is like yelling at me. You just need S3 credentials and endpoint. And that's going to get interesting because how do we automate that in PDS?
That's about the point where I stopped being able to write the playbook. It's just that part.
Is there any way, Landon, would you be, there's agnostic D roll for that. That does the, let's try this. Landon, do you just want to hop in the Zoom meeting with us and actually talk, because it'll be a lot simpler than chat?
You really should. We need more eyes.
Yeah, and honestly, you're going to be able to teach us so damn much right now.
We're in the right headspace
if you have the time. Yeah. All right, cool. I'm going to send you a quick email. JJ, give me confidential.
What's up?
Yeah.
What's up?
Top secret.
I swear to God, I almost started saying out loud as I was typing in the URL to him. Really defeats the purpose right there. All right, check your email. You should have a Zoom link in there. This is cool. This is going to be very cool. I'm appreciate him having the time for this right now. Because I don't know a ton about Rook either and Ceph and all of that kind of stuff. I've kept my head.
I'm at the core developers of Rook, actually. And the CEO at a random KubeCon once. Really nice people. Really nice people. Very passionate about a very specific thing.
I love, at Red Hat Summit, I've seen it a couple of years now. So you know conferences, JJ, where it's busy and you're carrying shit all over the place. And you know, some of them are huge in terms of venue and everything like that. OpenShift Container Storage will provide lockers that you can just jump your bag in if you're just like running around to instances and stuff. And I'm pretty sure they're free, and I forget what you have to do to actually get one. It might just be as simple as just give me a key for it at Open One. It might be some kind of little like scan your badge type of thing. But it's particularly funny because I love it as a concept that the container storage team is might even just be some different storage team inside of Red Hat, but the storage team is providing these storage lockers, and that absolutely cracks me up.
They're compartmentalizing your storage.
Yeah, like it's so perfect. Like that's exactly the kind of marketing like tie-in of like the storage team is giving us storage to store our stuff. That makes sense.
That's good. That's really good.
Every possible explanation. All right. So yeah, I know this is actually super interesting that it recommends this. I've never seen that before. That may be a new LLM thing. It may be an existing one that people have that I just didn't even know was a thing that you could possibly do. I can probably install this though, because this is just simply getting the operator installed. And this is fine. I heard the ding, but I can only see 3 videos.
Yeah, by default, I hide non-video people.
Oh, gotcha.
Because it messes up the stream if you start adding too many people, like the boxes, the names, or whatever. But we'll be able to hear them as soon as he starts talking.
Cool. Our guy should do that on the OpenShift one because he leaves the MC just leaves his video up, so you see the people talking, and then you see him looking around, getting the stream going and stuff like that.
It's a little weird.
It is a little weird.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey.
Hey, Landon. So thank you so much for hopping in. I probably should have just straight up invited you from the get-go. I guess you kind of introduced yourself in chat, but do you want to do like a little more of a quick intro about yourself?
Yes, Landon LeSmith, senior software engineer at Red Hat, working on Open Data Hub, one of many people. And just to reiterate, Open Data Hub is a community project and a reference architecture. It is not a supported Red Hat product, so you can't get a contract for it, but we do provide community support. If you want to go to opendatahub.io to get more information, and we also have repos on GitHub under opendatahub-io. So, feel free to submit PRs and improvements, open issues. We want to make it the best product possible.
Certbot, you need some Certbot, my friend. I just saw that.
What did I do?
No. Go to Open Data Hub, the website.
Oh.
See, it's not SSL.
Oh. Every time I go to the site, I always get distracted by this thing, though.
Yeah. We'll open an issue for that and get that fixed. So, or you can do the PR,
Okay, so you've seen where we've gotten to so far. So we played around with the fraud detection stuff, which was actually super neat and very. It was an interesting play with operators and manually installing them. So we got that installed through Community or through OLM. Looks like we got the container storage set up through OLM as well, which is also really awesome. So that's just the operator. Now actually deploying one. And here's where I'm going to end up just being like, all right, I kind of don't know what I'm looking at in terms of staff.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. So I guess just to call back to your earlier conversation, there's an agnostic D role for deploying OCS. So it'll deploy the operator and create the stores and everything. So Cedric, that'll help you out. The only thing we need from object storage for fraud detection is the S3 credentials and the endpoint. So that's for S3 or object storage credentials for the in-cluster storage.
So it is going to be, now you say that there's the agnostic D workload for deploying OCS.
Yeah, so it's it ends in -POC. It's the one we're using for another workshop. Yep, that's it. Eric just updated that. So.
Okay. Oh, I should be sure.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Cedric, I have an issue. You should have said Eric yet, but we're going to get to that point as we start doing more of this stuff. Okay, the same file, your AWS credentials. So
you mean IBM Cloud, right? You mean IBM Cloud?
Shit, we probably should have introduced ourselves. So you know who I am, you know who Cedric is. JJ, give a quick intro for Landon, who I don't think was here when we first started after the break.
Cool. It's nice to meet you, Landon. I'm a developer advocate for the IBM Cloud. My name is JJ. As you can obviously tell, we're on the IBM Developer Twitch channel, where we should be using IBM Cloud. Hint, hint. But I love Jay too much to let him not let him do what he needs to get done. There you go.
Just give me shit the entire way, and then everybody's gonna be
there you go.
Yeah, I will say, I guess the team that runs this, I mean, if you want to reach out to them about using IBM Cloud as the back end, yeah, they'll definitely work with you on that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that could be a very cool talk, a combo Red Hat and IBM talk there.
Mm-hmm.
That was something we could work on, JJ. Okay, so we're gonna have a workload for deploying it. Okay, so you do. That's what I was gonna ask. Do you know then? Does this use agnostic D's AWS credentials when it runs?
So let me clarify, and feel free to jump in and stop me if I'm rambling. This agnostic D is two things. So it's used to lay down infrastructure. So it's Ansible playbooks that literally wrap the OpenShift installer. So that part is kind of boilerplate code that's probably can be ripped out, mentioning AWS credentials. You do not need that. If you already have your cluster, OpenShift cluster deployed, ignore the AWS credentials. This is just an example on how you can run this role and target it at your cluster.
Okay. So, okay, gotcha. And if we look at tasks and workload, and Cedric, you did see some of this. So operate group catalogs for it's doing a snapshot, but okay. Create the storage cluster. Storage cluster. So yeah, so it's deploying a storage cluster, a whole bunch of variables in there, but that's fine. Let's try this and see what's going to happen. A bucket will be created. So again, this is saying since I'm using PDS, that bucket's going to use my credentials that are built into the cluster, right, Landon?
Correct.
Okay. Select at least 3.
We only have
Yes.
2.
Yeah. Oh, crap. When I provisioned this, I said to only give me 2 nodes because I usually think it spawns up faster when I only do 2. Let's see what happens here. Let's see if this is going to end up screwing me over. We could probably try to dynamically scale it up real quick. We're going to
No button. No button.
Okay. This is actually going to be a cool side thing. So let's go to okay, I gotta remember how this is. Machine sets. Thank you, JJ. Glad you're on top of that. So glad you added the sound effects to this stream. Love it. This is actually a very fun tangent, though. So OpenShift 4 is moved to this model where the cluster itself manages the nodes. So if you run through the installer, it's actually pretty lightweight if you go with the basics. They have machine sets, which is a custom resource defined by the operator. The machine sets define the different zones and the number of machines you want in each. So in theory, if I go into here and I say, give me 1 machine, and you know what, just for shits and giggles, we're going to throw another one at it in this zone. Because it's not my dime who's paying for this, so let's have fun with AWS. And I go back to the machine sets, and it should be provisioning. Now, I actually do a demo, that movie demo I was talking about earlier. You'll appreciate this. So you've seen War Games, right, JJ? Cedric, have you seen War Games?
It's an incredible movie, of course.
Okay, good answer. Good answer. So I do a talk where, and this is filling time while this starts up, but I do this live during a talk where I take scenes from the movie and replicate them on modern containerized technology. And I show the Whopper scene at the end. Spoilers to anyone listening who's never seen War Games, but if I spoil this for you, it's your own damn fault for not having seen War Games by now.
Yeah.
In the movie, they take down the evil supercomputer by having it play tic-tac-toe over and over again against itself, and it spins up resources and eventually crashes it. It's a early DDoS, for lack of a better term. And I show that where I have a job in OpenShift that spawns more and more fat containers and fills up the node, and then the requests come in for more containers, and you see them pending because there's no space on the nodes. They say, hey, look, we just destroyed the Whopper. What about if we made it resilient? And I set up an auto scaler that when the machines fill up and new request comes in, on demand, it spins up a new machine and then starts distributing the tic-tac-toes over to the new machine. And I wrote this little UI that shows each node, and it shows them filling up, and then it shows the pending. And then after a couple minutes, you see the new machine come up, and then the pending ones go there. And the idea is we've now actually allowed Whopper to destroy the world because we've made it resilient so it doesn't fall over when you throw too many requests at it. So hopefully this won't take too long, because I've had to do this on stage, and I've seen varying degrees of anywhere from 3 minutes to 5. So the amount of this kind of vamping I need to do of explaining all of this shit while I'm on stage can get a little bit wonky, but it's a very, very fun demo. The UI I have that shows the pods, I have this animated GIF of tic-tac-toe running. So you see them all fill up. And it got a really good response because most of the people had seen War Games. I talked to these 2 college kids after I did it last time, and they're like, yeah, we never seen like half of those movies. I'm like, God, I hate you all. Cedric, you make me super happy that you've seen it. Point of all this is this should hopefully not take too much longer. At least we got the provision, so it's just got to start getting everything run. Anish, that's kind of doesn't surprise me, but also disappoints the living crap out of me because like you are not a proper geek. And also I'd like to say that, you know, this just shows that I have upgraded in interns because I had a lame intern and he hadn't seen War Games, and now my new intern is well versed in computer history. I probably shouldn't pull that up on Twitch, that YouTube link, as much as I want to. I'd rather not get the IBM thing knocked out for copyright infringement.
It's just
now we have endings.
It's just the ending. It's just the ending scene on YouTube. That's all. So.
Gotcha. Anish, go watch it this weekend. So when I pitched this as a talk, the young guy, mid-20s, over at Dynatrace, I don't mind mentioning that. He's like, I hadn't seen it. He's like, so I watched it over the weekend. And he's like, it's not a very good movie. I'm like, I'm not saying this is like Shawshank Redemption levels of good, but it is fun as hell. And totally, I mean, it came out in '84, Anish. I was alive before you make the inevitable old joke, but I was like 5. So I knew enough, you know, it took me years to understand it, but definitely old for your time.
It truly inspired a whole generation of nerds out there. It really did.
So good. You can watch on YouTube. And if you've ever read the book Ready Player One, War Games is featured fairly heavily in that. And that if you haven't read that book, that's another recommendation to everyone in chat because that's an amazing book. Okay. I've bullshitted long enough that, oh, look, we now should have 3 machines. So if I go to my installed operators and I hop back to storage and container storage and a storage cluster, and ta-da, we now have 4 nodes we can install it on.
Yay.
3. And like, let's acknowledge how friggin' cool that is. That in the OpenShift console, we're like, oh, I need to throw more hardware at this so I can deploy this cluster. And I did it, and we talked for a little bit, and all of a sudden it's up. Like, that's awesome. That's the kind of thing where I would intentionally do it wrong in a talk. I've redeemed myself. That's one of those things. And Cedric, you might have picked up on Burr talking about this, like a fake failure in the middle of a talk where I would basically get to this position and be like, oh no, we don't have enough. But then it's kind of like a backdoor way of showing this as functionality. You know, for a stream, like whatever, I don't mind admitting, like I lowballed the cluster and it screwed us over. All right, so, okay, here we go. Whole bunch of stuff coming up here. So here's our work. And again, Cedric is going to look very similar. We're going to create a subscription that's going to give us the operator, and then you're going to create the specific resource. And in this case, it was of type storage cluster. Actually, that ended up creating one called Ceph cluster, which is interesting. We can poke through that together if you want to understand a little more of how they kind of chain the resource definitions there. But yes, we made a storage cluster that made a single resource type called a Ceph cluster. And that ended up deploying these, which are still going. I don't know, it just disappeared on me, but. And if we do storage cluster. Yeah, this is the guy you have to create, and he will, from there, create any of the children beyond it. That's status. What am I looking for? I can't do logs on it. I forget. Oh, I have to look on the CSV itself.
Still installing.
Cluster search version. Oh my God, I forgot how you do this. There's a way, events. CSV. There's an event. There's a way of looking into the CSV to get the logging for it, but that's fine.
You can check the status block.
Is that what I want? Status?
Yeah, if I want to track the prerequisites it's deploying or what hasn't been met, then yeah, I check the status for the CSV or the actual status block. So yeah, JQ, YQ.
I gotcha. And you're saying you do this on the CSV itself?
Correct.
Okay. There we go. This is what I was looking for. The status in here. Pardon me while I scroll because I know it's annoying to watch in chat. All right. So running. That is a lot of stuff. All right. Let's assume pending. Let's just talk through, let's give Landon a chance to talk through what we're going to do next after we get Rook installed. So presumably this means all of this block was taken away by that thing. Should we still be using this repo in GitLab, or has this stuff been ported over to GitHub yet?
No, it all exists in GitLab, yeah. Is this which fraud detection is this, the business workflows or the older just generic fraud detection?
So this is where I forked it from.
Okay. Yeah.
That guy.
So this is the older version. We did it, or Joanna NAC4 on our team, she helped develop this along with Malik and Anish actually to present this at Summit. So there's a newer version that has some business decision logic in it.
Okay, so Anish worked on it. That explains all of the issues we faced so far in the last 2.5 hours and why that was broken. That's more clear now. Where's the newer version? Well, actually, you tell me, because this is ultimately for you guys. What would you like us to get into PDS? The newer version, I guess?
Yes, the newer version, yes.
Can you send me a URL to that?
Yeah, it's in the same GitLab org. Very top.
With the business workflows, yeah.
Called fraud detection 2.rc6.
No, they're actually, I see the joke there, but they're actually very good that they quantified it as specifically what it is. Okay, Open Data Hub, Rook. This is cool. Okay, so, oh God, JJ, we were just talking about this.
Yep.
And that ability to copy and paste those. Okay. Kafka, that should be done. Rook, that's in the process of being done. Let's see what this output gives us. It's because we did it in the operator. They all say stable stuff.
So for OCS, it's a layer on top of Rook. So OCS combines Nuba for the multi-cloud gateway and Rook Ceph for the object storage. So just deploying the operator, you're still going to have to deploy kind of some dependent OCS custom resources to get the object storage.
Okay. Okay.
Now the agnostic D role will take care of all that for you.
Okay. For the purposes of today, that we probably, well, actually, let's maybe take a look at that. So there was the storage cluster. Operator group. Is there more in here? Do you know what those objects would be, resources are called though?
So I think it's the backing store.
Oh, PV pool back. I was reading all that as it was just PVs. Okay. Okay, so there's, I guess we need to deploy this whole Nuba system first too.
Correct, yeah.
And what's Nuba?
Multi-cloud gateway. So theoretically, you could connect through one unified interface. You could create a bucket to your on-prem Rook storage, or if there's IBM storage somewhere else in the cloud, you could do that.
JJ, I'm waiting for you to light up when he said that.
So sorry, I got pinged and I was distracted. Human problems. But yes, thank you for saying IBM Cloud. I did hear that.
That's interesting because I'm intrigued that they don't expose it up at like in OLM up here. Now we could obviously do it just by copy and pasting this in, making new templates for it. But where's the girl? Is she staying here?
Yeah, she's downstairs.
Okay. You guys saw how I referred to my daughter as the girl. Okay.
I call my first one number 1, and I call my second one number 2.
Awesome.
To their face. I'm like, hey, number 1, come here.
Cedric, you're actually ahead because I called Anish intern the entire time he was working for me. So you at least get a name, and that's progress.
Sweet. Innovation.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out the easiest way of doing this Nuba thing without having to determine insane defaults here. But maybe we don't have that. Because I don't want to have to, I see what you're getting at, that ultimately this will be broken down. We'll just use this role. So Cedric, your life's going to be simpler, that Eric's done this work for us and we can talk with Eric to see a little more about how it works. But for now, this is going to
we still need to define a namespace, right?
So if you omit it, it's just going to use the current one. And I'm currently using, I actually need to hop off now. Thanks for hanging out, Anish. It really was helpful. Appreciate it though. So, okay.
Take care.
MCG DB mem 1GI. No, that's not right. MCGD 0.5, right? What the hell is 0.5 CPU?
That's the mini cores or whatever they're called.
Oh, really?
It's a very specific terminology that only OpenShift uses.
MCG core CPU. Oh, it's just the same thing. Hang on, I feel like I screwed this up. Are they just using the same variables? DB, and core. Okay. DB, and then core, and then the core memory is different. All right. I can read. What happens when you go on to 2.5 hours of streaming? Everything starts to blur together.
That's the damn truth.
5, and this one is 500. Oh. Yeah, this is fine. Okay. Shit, am I in the right space? Yeah, okay, storage. Assuming there's gonna be a pod for this. Yeah, okay. So cool. So Noob is deploying. Hopefully. The terminating is a little bit disconcerting, but
Every time too.
Why isn't it doing it? I caught myself surprisingly quick there. Normally you sit there for like a couple minutes and you're like, don't know what's happening. All right, so hopefully that's coming up. Good.
There you go.
We're gonna keep running. That might be a timing issue where they just didn't stagger them and they just figure it'll eventually start working. All right, so I guess we'll go back to the agnostic stuff. So this is showing workload and Landon, if you have other things to do, like this is kind of how we end up doing here is we just kind of work around things live. So if this is distracting to you and you're like, okay, I know how to do this shit, I don't need to wait for it, by all means, feel free to drop off. You've already kicked us in the right direction.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm at the mercy of my wife right now, so I might drop off.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We're way further than we were, and we at this point, if anything, it'll be specific questions that I fire off to you over email from here. So, real quick, talk me through before you leave. We get Rook installed, we get those extra pieces you talked about, and then we're at this fraud detection model piece here.
Correct. Barring any errors due to version mismatches between Selden and anything else, that should be pretty straightforward.
Cool. And then we can start poking around the rest of this. That'll be interesting to figure out how we're going to get to AWS credentials in PDS, but we'll cross that bridge.
So that will be, they're just using the AWS command line to access the S3 storage. So you could use S3 command if you want. It's a slightly different format since I think you're using an unsecured server. Does it have self-signed certs or not?
No, I didn't do the self-signed certs on this one.
Okay.
Or I did. I'm sorry. It is self-signed. It is self-signed certs.
Okay. Yeah, it should be fine. AWS is a little bit easier. The CLI is a little bit easier to interact. You might need to use like no SSL verify when you do the AWS S3 commands.
Oh. So I'm using AWS, but I'm just talking to the actual Ceph deployment URL coming out of OpenShift.
Correct. Yeah. The Ceph object store, the Rados gateway allows you to use the same kind of Bodo libraries, Bodo 3 libraries that work with AWS S3. Those will work with Ceph object store.
Oh, cool. So we're using it, but we're not actually talking to AWS here. We just need to.
We are not. Nope.
That's cool. And that's funny that Bodo is still around because I remember using that like 11, 10 years ago. And I can't believe that's still the URL the library used, but that's awesome. All right, cool. Yeah, so if we get to that point, I'll keep you posted on how it goes to us. And like I said, we usually only go till about 5 and we're all getting a little punchy, but this was huge progress. So thank you a ton. I really appreciate you hopping into this stream and have a good weekend, man.
Oh, you too. Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks. Okay, so we have our backing store we created, and now we need the 2 bucket classes. And I'm presuming I can go through the templates and find those. So we'll do bucket class. And nice, this one doesn't have any variables.
Set paste. No.
What?
I was gonna say set paste. Surprised it worked.
What do you mean set paste?
For Vim.
Copy
and pasted it. Yeah. Well, no, you already did it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I was just surprised it worked.
And that's bucket class, and then we need the object bucket clean. And Cedric, obviously, well, I was gonna say remind me to send you these, but really, I think you're just gonna end up using that agnostic D role directly, and it's gonna be a non-issue.
I think Cedric left.
Oh, did he? Oh, yeah, I can see that. Okay, so and we're gonna look up some defaults here. BV bucket name MCG. And
Okay.
namespace. All right, so I see why that's a variable.
All right, Mr. Schafer, how are you?
I was just taking a chance you'd be on here because I wanted to talk to you, but if you're
We're actually streaming to the IBM Developer Twitch channel right now.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I just got an email about IBM's developer advocacy team and how we should try to align with them. So I was gonna come over and talk to my developer advocate friend.
That's awesome. Yeah, if you can give me about an hour or so.
What are we doing here on the OpenShift?
Jay, do you know Andrew Clay Schafer?
I don't know why I know the name, but I definitely feel like I recognize your name.
I usually have more beard, but
yeah.
So no, and apologies though. I suspect I could use an introduction.
well, I mean, I don't know. I do like stuff, so.
It could be why I'm a little fuzzy remembering.
I work for Red Hat right now, so.
Yeah, what do you? God, I'm sure we've crossed paths at some point. I'm going to look you up in Rover after this is over.
All the stories are lies.
Good stuff. Good stuff. But yeah.
Well, anyway, hit me up. I just took a random chance that you'd be on a hangout. I wasn't sure I would jump into a stream, but I'm glad I did.
There you go. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'll reach out.
Bombing.
Yep.
How many people are watching?
We had the max of 15, and we're sitting pretty safely at 10 right now, which is pretty good. For a 3-hour stream of us basically fucking around with OpenShift, doing some ML stuff. It's a pretty good poll. Pretty good poll.
So what's the ML doing?
Yeah, Jay, how about
nothing.
you just
We're
give
trying to get it deployed.
Yeah, we're trying to get it deployed.
So, which isn't a surprise though. We say that and it sounds like we're completely awful, but what happened is
we got some machines, but not a lot of learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, actually, I kind of like that actually. So Open Data Hub is a project, not product, from Red Hat. And I just looked you up. You're from sales, so you're going to be very clear about that distinction. And we are trying to get a demo they have created they ran it the past 2 summits, this fraud detection demo. So working with that team, excuse me, they have this demo and they want to make it much easier to install. So Red Hat has our product demo system, all driven by Ansible, and we'd like to be able to push button and have, ta-da, this demo is up, rather than needing this rather daunting set of manual instructions. So we've been running through them, trying to get it working ourselves, playing with operators, playing with scaling up OpenShift dynamically, which I'm still really, really excited we get to do on stream because that's really cool. And yeah, but still at the point of getting it installed, so we're not actually learning anything. I mean, we're learning, the machines aren't learning.
So what does the demo do when it actually works?
It's hard to explain. Wait, give me 1 second. I think I could just, there's a video of it in the other fraud detection tutorial.
Fraud detection? Is that what the one?
Yep.
Yeah, and it simulates being able to analyze credit card information and guess which ones are fraud. Among other things, I'm kind of really trivializing it. It's like a 15-minute demo, but it's all about like, okay, we have this sample situation of all of this data on credit card information, and they're going to use it to detect fraudulent claims or fraudulent charges, I suppose is probably the right word there.
Good times.
Mm-hmm.
What does Cedric do?
So let me introduce myself. So I'm a developer advocate at Red Hat on the OpenShift team, and Cedric's an intern working with us for the summer.
Yep. And so I originally tried like for the longest time to get this working. Had some success, but I couldn't get that far, and so that's why we're working with it today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is like a total stream type of thing. Like, let's just kind of dork around with it and see what happens.
It works really well. It's an opportunity for us to bring our minds together to work on something, and we all learn something, and we come out better for it, which is great. You know,
this has been pretty cool. All right, so I think we have all of the pieces done in here. So if we look at create the backing store, the bucket class, the object bucket claim, and then wait. Let's see, actually, I'm kind of curious to see if we can hack these commands in. Let's do this.
So are you trying to reproduce the commands in the YAML, or you're working from a...
We're kind of crossing two different boundaries here. So to get this fraud detection demo running, we need to install, amongst other things, Rook and Ceph. So we have them installed. There's a separate Ansible playbook that runs inside of this provisioning engine that will do it for us. So when we actually go to port this in, we can skip this entire step. But in the interest of learning and just kind of dorking around on stream, we've been manually doing some of these steps. So right now is a bit of a conversion of, okay, what does it look like the Ansible playbook is doing, and how do we manually run those commands? Because running this playbook, when it's in Agnostic D, which is this system that provisions these workshops for us, you need some prerequisites in place before you can just run the playbooks directly. But again, from a learning perspective, it's kind of a little more interesting to just run through the pieces themselves anyway.
So you need Rook and Ceph to like put the data in, and then this is how you set it up.
Yep.
We had to play with some operators and everything. So it's giving us we've peeled back this onion pretty deeply already.
Yeah, we really have. And then we want to see, let's grab status out of here and see what happens. I think it's just saying, well, I think though it's just simply saying, because status is the dictionary. So there's data under there, if I took that out. And I'm just trying to replicate. I think all this says is bucket resources first. Still says pending, so that might be problematic because this is just simply checking, is this defined? Oh no, I'm and then bound, so phase pending. Okay, so we're waiting on bound, so we're not quite there yet. It can take upwards of 750 seconds to get to.
Just retry 75 times, it'll be fine.
Right. Well, we'll set up a watch on it and just hang out for a little bit.
Put your quotes around it.
Damn it. Oh, I love it. That's such like again, like this kind of advocacy presenter thing where, you know, you've been through that situation and you're doing it on screen and you're trying to show people all of this data. I want you to focus on this one piece. So you end up chaining these watch commands, and then every time you forget stupid.
Every time.
And it always looks the same way. That's like the same thing with like Git. Once I've made a branch, you have to call the set remote, but I never remember the command. So I try to push it. I wait for it to say you have to run this, and then I run that command. Like I know conceptually, but it's just way faster. So here, I'm just gonna type and see what happens.
Let the automation do the work for you.
Exactly. All right. So it looks like though, once we're done with this, Rook and all of these pieces should be up. So on Monday, Cedric, we can reach out to Eric and just try to get a feel for what he's using it for. But really, it's to support these types of situations. So in your Agnostic D, you can get started on writing the pieces that install Operator Data Hub. Open Data Hub. Based on what we saw. So they create the namespace, they create the operator.
Which is crazy because I looked for Open Data Hub operators in the Ansible roles there, and I did not see that.
Yeah, you're the first one to have you're the first one to have needed it. You're going to be writing that.
Yep.
So
unfortunately,
That's right. OCS-POC. 2 days ago was the last commit, but honestly, I'm willing to bet that he wrote this for.
So is whatever that thing's watching and waiting actually making progress?
It's a good question. The fact that it's still pending is mildly disconcerting, but the fact that Eric had to configure that at 75 retries at 10 seconds makes me think it can take a while, because the other ones are simply 300 seconds. So 75, that's an absurdly large number.
Is there like a log from an Ansible thing that's happening somewhere, or?
No, these are wonky to get to. I could probably check the operator. It's probably that guy. These might be the right logs. Let me see if it's still actually coming in. Yeah, so this is still doing something. Not creating a Ceph object.
Like
it does. I don't know what a lot of this stuff means, but this one is interesting. Not creating a Ceph object store because the platform is AWS seems a little bit weird to me.
Because you need to be on IBM Cloud. Heyo.
Don't miss that opportunity. I love it.
But it also basically says it's not going to do the thing that you're trying to do, I think.
Probably. Yeah, those logs are not terribly I'm not terribly optimistic about it, but it could just be, that could be a warning message saying like, all right, we're not doing that path. I'm still waiting on something. This may be as far as we get for the day, though. Let me see. I'm curious, this is an intriguing phrasing here. No component operator reported negatively.
That's a weird statement.
Yeah.
It's not quite a double negative.
Yeah.
But it's aspiring to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's right there. And he's running off the snapshot though, so maybe that's what we should have been doing instead. This piece is effectively installing the operator that, well, these two pieces together are installing the operator that we did through the UI. Let's see, subscriptions. And
so how often do you stream like this?
Fridays is when Jay and usually Brian Tanis and occasionally Cedric and I come together, and we just kind of try to gain something within the 3 hours we come together from 1 p.m. Eastern, no, 2 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. And then we've done multiple different ones, ranging from getting COBOL to work on OpenShift to just messing around with best practices with Python development. It's just an opportunity for us to kind of collaborate.
So are they scheduled with a theme, or you just stream whatever happens?
We do talk during the week to try to get an idea of what we're looking for. And sometimes we have like people hop into the stream or the chat have asked us like, hey, next week, would you work on X, Y, or Z? Those conversations have happened. But in general, it's just kind of like, it's an opportunity for us to pair up and work on something cool together. Like for right now, we've gotten the work we're doing here with this ML, trying to get ML working with Kubeflow on OpenShift is actually really deep into the weeds, but it's exposing portions of OpenShift that people normally don't see, right? Yeah. Like unless you actually need to get there. So I record this also, and I put this up on YouTube afterwards. So people can see and be like, oh, so you actually spent your time trying to figure out how to get this thing to work. And it turns out because it was stuck in pending for so long, this is how you debug to figure out why it was pending or whatever. Or these are the logs you looked at. I've gotten some really good feedback about that kind of thing.
And today we went down some awesome rabbit holes today with the machine scaling, with just the operator dependencies, with some just general open sourceness stuff. We're updating instructions and things like that.
So you don't always going to get to the full arc of a narrative to complete it, but you get to expose your own learning process, basically.
Yeah.
And we use it as an argument against our engineering time. And sometimes we have continued the narrative to the next stream where we're like, we got so close. Okay, let's try to get this done. We even started this whole stream with bringing up the Kate's module for Ansible, because we thought we were going to spend if you look at the name, we thought we were going to spend all our time inside of Ansible, but we ended up taking a complete left turn trying to just get the damn thing to install first before going to the automation, and which is a typical workflow. If you are trying to build something for automation, you need to get it to work first before messing with it.
So the one difference I'm seeing is Eric's script is using the 4.2 channel for the operator, but we picked the 4.4, which is available in when we went to install it. I'd have to go to the install button to see the full version. And it's possible we skipped some steps because I kind of half-assedly looked through what Eric is doing in this template. It doesn't look particular. I guess it may be a pre-step. But typically, no. The way these agnostic D ones are set up. Oh, look, it's even got
nice.
It's pretty badass. This could be a problem. We didn't label the worker nodes properly. So that could be having a problem because it's actually not installing Ceph correctly. Main is just this driver that does all of these. And then
New could pave. Start over.
Seriously, although it is, I am spent for today though. So, but yeah, create the namespace, we did that. The operator group, OLM did that for us. The catalog source, the snapshot, OLM did that for us, even though it's using a newer version. CRDs, easy enough. And we created the storage cluster. I don't know that we ever checked that it was ready per se. That might be a bigger problem. Spell that.
Such a weird name. Nuba.
Yeah. Status resources link status.
If we're getting close to the wrap up, I'll ask in the channel if there's any questions or thoughts anyone has from last time, and we can start wrapping up. Because yeah, to your point, we have been sitting here for 3 hours. We should probably move.
My eyes are just exactly. Everything's kind of glazing over. We did at least get the Nuba instance up in the ready state, so that's good. And we seem to be hanging out on this, trying to get the bucket existing. Cedric will circle back on Monday, probably even a little bit later than Monday, because you still have that video you're working on and then the Katakoda thing. But we've definitely made progress. We definitely are seeing how it's all going to kind of fit together. And then once we can get this up, next step may even just be we run Eric's thing directly out of Agnostic D or touch base with Eric to see if he knows any more about why this thing might be stuck in pending. He might have seen this too. So progress.
So many deviations we can make.
Yeah, exactly. But it really was an absolute shit ton of progress though. That we're almost at the point, 3 hours later, we're almost at the point of running the actual fraud detection model. Oh, and our other stream just got scheduled apparently. Go away, is that technical? Yes. What the hell was I gonna say? Yeah, but also Cedric, to your point about like struggling to get this thing working, there was 3 of us, and then, kind of halves if you count Anish and Landon, and still struggling to get it working. So not trivial. I'm definitely not surprised that it's taken a bit to get this kind of up and running, and it was always going to be a little bit fuzzy on how easy those instructions were to follow. But out the gate on the set that you were looking at, there were literal typos and problems in there. So that kind of set the stage for what we knew was going to happen.
Yep.
All right, I will stop the share.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we're good. I want to say thanks for everyone watching. All that jazz. Schafer, you're always welcome.
Do this every Friday. You're gonna
do.
come to ours next week, right? We
absolutely.
You have the schedule for it?
No, I don't. if you want to just stick around, I'll stop the stream and we can talk some things out. How about that?
Okay.
But yeah, gentlemen, thank you. And then I guess we'll
Thank
say
you.
bye. Bye.
Have a good weekend. Talk to you guys later.
Stay safe.